I didn't think about the Global South until I was sitting here and going, well, yes, I work in South Africa. I've worked with Afro-longevity and building Afro-longevity for the entire continent of Africa, looking at aging and disease and the rise in obesity, diabetes, and cancer, the diseases that we've been facing in the global north to a great extent and still struggling with, and I have great concern about that. I've also been working with Ethiopia in education on artificial intelligence with the Singularity Net, and Ben Gertzwell is the brains behind that, as many of you know him, dear friend and one of my deepest colleagues for many years. Our project there is started out Girls Can Code, and now it's Anyone Can Code, and it's the digi-truck that travels through Ethiopia to remote areas teaching people of all ages, all genders, all whatever, how to code so they can have a job, something to do, and to learn about being part of the whole global North-South. And I wanted to say that because, yes, I do have an affinity with Africa. I love it very much, all 54, 55 countries. I'm still not sure how many countries there are. And I know it's difficult to travel through Africa, getting visas, et cetera. So I've experienced that as well. So thank you very much for that. One thing I do want to say is I had planned on talking about the human mind because I'm so in love with it. My mother had dementia. It's tough, and I want to talk about that because our brain, is the most precious organ we have. This is not going the right way. Hold on just a moment. Where do I point this? Up here? Here. Okay. Forward. There. The human mind is our most precious organ. If we don't take care of it, what the hell? What are we going to do? What is the point of anything else? And within our brain, the chemistry, the connections, the synapses, the dendrites, the axons, they're all functioning. 98 billion of them. And they're not only functioning in each human being's brain, they're functioning in the 8 million people on planet Earth. So you multiply that and you're getting a huge number of neurons. So what makes up this human mind? And why am I so concerned about our human mind and not looking at it as a north or a south across the parts of the brain, right, left brain? In order to be creative and to use our brains, we use the whole entirety of the brain. Creativity and mindfulness is not in either section of the brain. Certainly the hippocampus is our memory location, we know that. But it's in the prefrontal cortex that creativity is. And it's in that narrow space, that nano space between the cortex and the prefrontal cortex that the push-pull, the action-reaction has given some space so that our species of humans, who we are as modern humans, I'm not sure I like that term, but let's say modern humans, evolved separate and survived beyond all the other humans, and there were many humans along with the Neanderthals after the Australopithecus, and we intermated, and we survived our section of the species, and how glorious is that? And it really, really touches me to listen to anxiety and anguish. And why are we stuck in this? For goodness sakes, we have this beautiful mind. So I just had to say that in tribute to the recent panel because it really, really touched me deeply. It's not going forward. I'm sorry. There. What is this mind that we have, this beautiful thing? Well, is it consciousness? Is it the brain? What's going on there? No one knows what consciousness is, and you can get into the hard problem or the real problem. But it doesn't matter to me. I'm conscious, and that's all I care about. And I'm here with you, and I'm looking at you, and you're probably going, I'm really embarrassed for her because she started to cry. But that's okay. We all have foibles. You pick yourself up, and you dust yourself off, and you get back in there, right? So why are we letting our college students sit around with teddy bears and blankets and hot chocolate because Trump won, or because they're not getting what they wanted, or because they couldn't do this or that or the other thing? Come on, nonsense. We grow and we evolve through a strength. One of my dear friends, David Eagleman, who had a TV show on the brain, very dear friend of mine, I asked him, my mother has dementia, what can I do? She's so brilliant. She's 99 years old in her 100th year. She doesn't know anything. She thinks she's pregnant and married to a Frenchman. You know, what do I do with this? And why did this happen to her? And is it hereditary? He said, no, Natasha, it's not hereditary, not this type of dementia. Alzheimer's is, but not this type of dementia. And yes, your mother was very bright. She did puzzles every day. She read avidly. Really a crisp thinker. Yet she did crossword puzzles every day. And I said, why? He said, don't do the same thing every day. Challenge yourself. Stress yourself cognitively. Do something that you do not want to do, that's difficult for you, and then adapt. I'm studying French because I can't pronounce French words. I can speak Japanese and Italian, and other languages come easily to me, but not French. So I'm making myself study it for at least 15 minutes every day. You gotta do things that are tough. Okay, now with that said, the brain, yes, lovely that it is, and the prefrontal cortex, as I said, it gave us that newness, that evolutionary leap 100,000 years ago. And how glorious is that? And all the different chemical reactions going on from the molecules, from the atoms, to the chemistry, to the electrical charges, from the axons and the synapses that don't really touch, they just send chemical messages. That's so much activity going on in our brains. 20% of our body's energy, of your human energy goes to your brain. So use it. Okay, now let's take a look at history. Oh, I've got it right there, thank you. Okay, 100,000 years ago, yeah, the prefrontal lobe. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Anyway, I'm just gonna go off. It's not working for me, but we got the Stone Age, and then we started thinking, then the Industrial Revolution was the next big leap, tremendous leap, because we learned to wash our hands, to be clean, to take care of people. Social structures changed. Education changes. The Industrial Revolution was a major evolution for the human brain as far as cohesively, as far as connectivity, as far as collaborations. And then the internet. Oh my goodness, the World Wide Web in the 1990s. I was on the first email list on the future of humans and philosophy called Extropy. In the early 1990s, I'm sure Greg Stock remembers that, and we talked about all things interesting about the future in AI and what are we going to become and what is going to happen with humanity. And here we are. The different evolving actions that we have created through industrialization, through creativity, through doing it, through picking ourselves off, wiping our tears, and getting things done is what makes the human mind so precious to me. A friend of mine, another one, who is a world-renowned geneticist, said, one day the computer will probably become biological. And here we're spending all of our time trying to make AI and make ourselves the computer. So what's going on here? I don't think it's one or the other. It's neither north or south, right or left brain, black or white, binary thinking. I think it's the composite that we must integrate with artificial intelligence. If we don't integrate with artificial intelligence, we may be at a loss, because some of the problems that we're facing that previous speakers have talked about so articulately and diligently and passionately are things about the world that we care about: sustainability, connectivity, human energy, the noösphere. It's all about us, and we're part of it. So let's make it something great. No complaints, please. And the anguish and the anxiety we all have to a degree, but let's get over it. Let's get out of the victimhood mentality that has been surmounting by leaps and bounds. I mean, I sit with friends of mine, world-renowned entrepreneurs who are talking about, oh, I've got this cancer and I've got that. Well, who doesn't have cancer today? Each one of us will have one or two. I've already had 3 different types of cancer. Get over it, get going. Deal with it. And if you're in enormous pain and anguish and anxiety or fear, ask your loved ones to help you. Asking for help is one of the greatest things that we can do. The second greatest thing is to say, I'm sorry, my fault, my bad, I did it. Okay, now let's see if I can go to the next slide. Okay, where is the brain going with AI? Well, brain-computer interfaces, University of Illinois, many, many, many decades ago. And then what did we have? The smartphones, okay, brain went outside our body there, and then neuroprosthetics, taking a look at OpenAI chat, and I use it every day. I have Claude over here and OpenAI over here, and I often have them debate each other when I ask questions. I try to correct them and teach them. I don't know if they're learning from me or not. 2030, there'll be human AI. For goodness sakes, we're going to integrate with it, so let's snap to it. And also, the exo part of the brain, the exocortex, will be an extension of ourselves, hopefully, to increase our level of intelligence, problem solving, compassion, empathy, and love, and respect for our human brain. So this whole network, the noösphere out there, the connectivity and chemicals and electrical charges and thinking and problem solving, all that stuff that's going on in our brain, how marvelous is that? But I do have an issue. And one of those issues that I have is that while we look at the first molecule here, I wrote it on my arm so I wouldn't forget, NGC7027. Does anyone know what that is? It's the first molecule after the Big Bang. It was born 100,000 years after the Big Bang, and it is the first molecule to be detected by an observatory called SOFIA. Well, interesting enough, 100,000 years ago was the prefrontal cortex. So I found an interesting analogy there with the outside dynamics of molecular structures and chemistry and compositing and moving and evolving to where we're going with our brain. While we may be running on the operating system of the body and the software in our brains, there's also something going on that I planned on talking about, but I was really triggered by the anxiety and anguish mode and my deep concern about our health and longevity, not only in this room, but of course in everywhere in the world. Could I have my phone if it's sitting in my chair? I'll see if I can remember this. Every day, 10,000 people, 5 to 10,000, let's round it off to 8,000 people in the global north are turning 65. In the global south, approximately the age of people 60 is going to double by 2030. Okay, so that's a lot of old folks. Now, I'm in my mid-70s, so I'm not frightened by that. I've already been through it. But let me say that that number of people increasing in age is not about aging. It's not about numbers and chronological years. It's about the wear and tear on our brains and the lack of nutrition, the lack of warmth and fuzziness that we're getting from each other, and the lack of can-do ability that is eroding, causing what we call entropy of the brain. And that's really important to us because, along with that, just looking in Africa, between 2030 and 2050, dementia is going to double. And so you don't have as many turning that age living as long as in the northern global portion of our world. It's still serious. And in the northern portion of our world, dementia is going to triple by 2050. Now, that dementia includes Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a disease of dementia, and it's a life-threatening disease. You don't survive dementia, and your neurons don't survive. They're gone. Once they're gone, they're gone. That is today, not tomorrow, but today they're gone. With most dementias, the memory's lost somewhere. The hippocampus is not working properly, and it's lost. There is some medication, but not enough. So this is a serious problem to me. The human mind, again, comes our brain, that's my belief anyway, and that chemical electrical charges are being deteriorated, they're eroding, they're causing entropy as we age. Thank you. This is very serious. So you put that with another serious issue that I'm going to tack onto that. That's just food for thought about your own nutrition, brain nutrition. There's 3 things that I think are really important. The first off is language. we lack a definition, an understanding of what our future human is going to be. In academics and in the mainstream, there is a wrestling pull and tug for words like cyborg, transhuman, posthuman, upload. And the theoretical approaches and philosophical approaches to these terms often overlap and often diffuse what our future human is going to be. My love is for the human. Although I am a transhumanist, to be sure, I am a humanist transhumanist. But we ought to be very careful about how we use the term cyborg, transhuman, posthuman, upload, etc., as well as other. The other point I wanted to make is that there's a silo going on with the relationship between the human and artificial intelligence. And here I'm going to give you 4 different theoretical, philosophical approaches that are coming out of groups of friends of mine, which I argue with constantly about it. We have the singularity, or the technological singularity that dear Ray Kurzweil is espousing, but it came from Werner Vinge. And we need to go back to the original idea of Werner, because he talked about hitting a wall, and he talked about human nature and what that could do. Rather than pontificating about future, this is going to happen, it will happen maybe, or probably, but not maybe as a wall, but in surges. Another term is existential risk. Okay, so existential risk has become so popular that there are so many new organizations that are finding risk management and creating hyperbole about existential risk. And I could name them, but I won't bore you with them. You already know what those groups are, including Oxford University, the Future of Life Institute, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There are risks to be sure, but we need to be careful about how we bandy around terms like existential risk. Existentialism is a philosophical term. It has nothing to do with extinction risk. That is a different concept. It's extinction risk we need to be very careful about. Effective altruism, another term that's bandied around when looking at the silo of the human and the AI, creating fear and some hope to be sure. Long-termism is another newer term that is espousing why we should care about the far future and not today. We're too selfish. It's too human-centered. We're too human-driven. Well, for goodness sakes, our human mind created the world that we have. We have created so much good in the world. Let's stand up for it and be proud of it, not ashamed that we're humans, especially white humans or human men. Men have done tremendous work over the many, many centuries. So have women. So have all groups, sizes, shapes, brain size, etc. So let's be proud of being humans and adorn our human brain, because for goodness sake, it's all that we have, in my view, and I hope yours does well. Thank you. The last point is to back up on, thank you, Arnold, to back up on the previous session that kind of lost my brain because I was so into it. Oh my goodness, confirmation bias. That ties into everything that I've tried to say, and I hope that we can continue checking ourselves on how often do we say, I know, and I'm right, and you're wrong, and this is the way it is, and my theory and my philosophy is better than yours. Well, let's forget that. We're humans in a world where we need to do everything possible to make it better for each of us, everyone. Thank you.